The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a monument to cooperation and unity among the stars. 17 different species sent their representatives here to discuss trade, war, peace, and everything in between. The hall itself was a massive dome of crystal and metal, designed to make anyone standing at its center feel very small indeed. Ambassador Daniel Harper stood at that center now. Feeling anything but small, he was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity for 40 years, first as a soldier, then as a diplomat. He had shaken hands with creatures that had no hands. He had negotiated treaties with beings made of pure energy. He had smiled at insults and swallowed his pride more times than he could count. Today he was done smiling. Around him, the representatives of the council watched from their elevated platforms. The Sindari, insect-like creatures with sharp mandibles and sharper minds, occupied the highest seats. They had founded the council 3,000 years ago and never let anyone forget it. Below them sat the Marathi amphibian beings who breathed through gills and communicated in bubbling songs. The Velkin were there too, crystalline entities that sparkled like living diamonds. And there were others, so many others, each species convinced of its own importance. High Counselor Vextheri of the Sindari clicked his mandibles together, a sound that his translator rendered as polite laughter. The human ambassador wishes to speak again. How amusing. What complaint do you bring us today, Ambassador? Has someone looked at you in a way you did not like? More laughter echoed through the chamber. Daniel waited for it to stop. 300 years ago, he began, his voice steady and clear. Humanity discovered faster than light travel. We reached the stars and found that we were not alone. We found you, the Great Galactic Council, the wise and ancient species who had mastered the universe long before we learned to make fire. He paused, looking around the chamber. We were so excited. We thought we had found friends, teachers, partners. We joined your council eagerly. We followed your rules carefully. We trusted that if we were good members, if we contributed and cooperated and played by the rules, we would be treated fairly. His voice hardened. We were fools. The laughter stopped. In 300 years, humanity has never been given voting rights in this chamber. Our opinions are heard, but never counted. Our colonies have been raided by Korathi slavers 17 times. 40,000 of our people were taken and sold. We asked the council for help. Do you remember what you told us? Silence. You told us it was an internal Korathi matter. You told us that interfering would set a dangerous precedent. You told us to file a formal complaint and wait for review. Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a small data chip. It was an ordinary thing, the kind used to store documents and records. But what it contained was anything but ordinary. This chip contains the official declaration of the United Earth Government. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties are cancelled. All trade agreements are void. All diplomatic relationships are ended. Human space is now closed to all alien vessels. Any ship that crosses our borders without permission will not return. The chamber exploded into noise. Representatives shouted and screamed. Some demanded order. Others demanded explanation. Vextheri slammed his forearms against his podium, trying to restore calm. You cannot do this, the High Counselor finally managed. The compact requires a formal withdrawal process. There are procedures, forms, reviews. Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The compact also requires member species to protect each other from aggression. It requires fair treatment under the law. It requires basic respect for the rights of sentient beings. He tucked the data chip back into his coat. Since the Council has decided that those requirements are optional, we have decided that all requirements are optional. This is madness, sputtered Ambassador Krelvix of the Marathi, his gills fluttering with agitation. You are a young species. You have only 40 star systems. We have thousands. You cannot possibly survive alone. Perhaps not, Daniel agreed. But we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. We would rather face the darkness alone than beg for scraps at your table. We would rather be nothing than be less than nothing in your eyes." He turned and began walking toward the exit. Prelate Sara of the Velkin called out, her crystalline body flashing patterns of urgent light that her translator struggled to keep up with. "Ambassador Harper, please. Let us discuss this. The Council can form a committee to examine your concerns. We can address your grievances through proper channels." Daniel stopped at the door. He did not turn around. 300 years of committees prelate. 300 years of proper channels. 300 years of being told to wait while our people suffered. He placed his hand on the door panel. Humanity is done waiting. The doors opened before him. "You are making a terrible mistake," Vexari called out. "You will regret this. When your economy collapses, when your people starve, when you realize how much you need us, you will come crawling back. And we may not be so forgiving." Daniel finally turned. His eyes met the High Counselor's compound gaze without flinching. "That is the difference between us, High Counselor. You see forgiveness as something to be earned through suffering. We see it as something freely given to those who deserve it. You have shown us, again and again, that you do not deserve it." He stepped through the doorway. "Goodbye, Counselor. May you one day become what you pretend to be." The doors closed behind him with a heavy sound, like the ceiling of a tomb. In the chamber, silence reigned. The representatives looked at each other, uncertain what to say. For the first time in 1,000 years, a species had simply walked away from the Council. No war, no negotiation, no demands. Just goodbye. Finally, Vexari clicked his mandibles, though the sound was less confident than before. "Let them go," he said. "They will learn their lessons soon enough. Humanity is young and foolish. When reality sets in, they will return, and they will be grateful for whatever crumbs we offer them." The other representatives nodded and murmured their agreement. Of course the humans would return. What choice did they have? The galaxy was vast and dangerous. No species could survive alone. But as the Council returned to its business, a few members remained silent. Admiral Torvik of the Karathi hegemony, an old warrior who had fought in more wars than most species had histories, stared at the door through which the human had departed. He had seen something in Daniel Harper's eyes that troubled him. Not fear, not desperation. Not the wild defiance of a cornered animal. He had seen certainty. And that, more than anything the ambassador had said, worried him deeply. The session continued. Decisions were made. Trade routes were discussed. Territorial disputes were mediated. Life in the galaxy went on, as it always had. But something had changed. Something small and quiet and easy to miss. A crack had formed in the great edifice of the Council's power. And though no one noticed it yet, that crack would soon grow into a chasm that would swallow everything they thought they knew. Humanity had made its choice. Now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences. The first week after humanity closed its borders, nobody in the Council was worried. They were annoyed, perhaps. Insulted, certainly. But worried? No. Humanity was a small species with a small territory. They would soon realize their mistake and come back with apologies. High Counselor. Vexari told everyone who would listen that the humans would return within 6 months. He made bets with other council members. He laughed about it at dinner parties. "The silly little humans," he said. "They think they can survive without us." How adorable. The second week. Something strange happened. Human space went completely silent. It was not just that the humans stopped talking to the Council. That was expected. But they stopped talking to everyone. Trade ships that approached the border found nothing. Communication signals that were sent into human space simply vanished. It was as if someone had built a wall around 40 star systems and painted it the color of nothing. "Send scout ships," Vexari ordered. "Find out what they are doing in there."
Ow.
10 scout ships were sent. None of them came back. There was no battle, no explosions, no distress signals. The ships simply crossed the border and disappeared. Sensors tracked them for a few seconds after they entered human space, and then the sensors showed nothing at all. Equipment failure, the Sindari Intelligence Division reported. Human space is experiencing some kind of communication blackout. Our ships are probably fine. We just cannot detect them. More ships were sent. 40 in total. Military vessels with the best sensors and the toughest armor that the Sindari could build. None of them came back either. Now, the council was starting to worry. By the third week, worry had grown into fear. The council sent a diplomatic mission, a small, unarmed vessel broadcasting messages of peace on all frequencies. The ship was crewed by volunteers who believed that the humans could be reasoned with. They carried gifts and apologies and promises of reform. The ship crossed the border, vanished like all the others. 3 hours later, it reappeared. It drifted back across the border slow. Lie, as if pushed by invisible hands. When rescue teams boarded it, they found the crew alive but unconscious. Medical scans showed no injuries, no trauma, nothing wrong at all. They were simply asleep. When they woke up, they remembered nothing. The last thing any of them could recall was crossing the border. After that, just darkness. But there was a message. Each crew member had the same words burned into their neural implants, words that appeared whenever they closed their eyes: do not return. The fourth week brought economic problems. Humanity had always been a minor player in galactic trade. They exported some luxury goods, some manufactured parts, some agricultural products. Nothing important. Nothing that could not be replaced, except it turned out that some things could not be replaced. The Velkin discovered that a key component in their power systems came only from human factories. They had never noticed before because the supply had always been steady. Now, there was no supply at all, and their engineers could not figure out how to make the parts. Themselves, the Marathi found that a certain medical compound, essential for treating a common disease among their young, was manufactured only on human worlds. They had stockpiles, but the stockpiles would run out in a year. A dozen other species discovered similar dependencies. Small things, unimportant things. Except now that they were gone, they turned out to be very important indeed. We will find alternatives, Vexeri declared. The humans are not special. Other species can make these things. But the alternatives were worse, more expensive, lower quality. Sometimes they did not exist at all. Humanity, it seemed, had quietly made themselves useful in ways that nobody had noticed until they were gone. The fifth week brought terror. A Karathi raiding fleet, 200 ships strong, decided to take advantage of what they saw as an opportunity. Human space was empty, they reasoned. The humans were hiding, scared of their own shadow. All those worlds, all those resources. Just sitting there waiting to be taken, the fleet crossed the border with weapons, ready and hearts full of greed. One ship came back, just one. It drifted out of human space slowly, its weapons cold, its engines barely functioning. When boarding parties entered, they found the crew dead at their stations. All of them, except the captain. Captain Groktar was one of the most feared raiders in the Korathi hegemony. He had killed thousands. He had burned worlds. He had laughed at the screams of his victims. Nothing frightened him. They found him in his command chair, staring at nothing. His eyes were open, but empty. His body was undamaged, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Medical teams tried to help him. They used every technique they knew. Nothing worked. Groktar sat in silence, eating only when food was put in his mouth, drinking only when water was held to his lips. He spoke only once. A medical technician was checking his vital signs when suddenly, without warning, Groktar grabbed her arm. His grip was strong enough to leave bruises. "They were waiting," he whispered. "They knew we were coming. They were always waiting. They had been waiting for 300 years. Then his grip relaxed, and he returned to his silence. He never spoke again. The council held emergency session after emergency session. They argued and debated and blamed each other. Some wanted to send the entire combined fleet into human space. Others wanted to pretend nothing had happened. A few suggested that perhaps, maybe, They should try apologizing. That suggestion was not popular. Admiral Torvik listened to the arguments without speaking. He had studied humanity since first contact. He had read their history, their literature, their military records. He had watched them fight, both alongside Council forces and against pirates who attacked their colonies. He had thought he understood them. Now he realized he had understood nothing. The humans he had known were friendly, eager to please, quick to forgive. They smiled at insults and turned the other cheek. They were, everyone agreed, a soft species, emotional, weak. But soft species did not make ships disappear without a trace. Weak species did not break the mind of a Korathi warlord with whatever they had done. Emotional species did not plan for 300 years. Torvik was old. He had fought in wars that most species had forgotten. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had learned to recognize danger in all its forms, and right now, every instinct he had was screaming at him. The humans were not hiding. They were not scared. They were waiting, and whatever they were waiting for. Whoever they were becoming in that dark and silent space behind their walls, Torvik was certain of one thing. When humanity finally chose to reveal itself again, the galaxy would never be the same. He said nothing of his fears to the Council. They would not listen. They were too busy being afraid of the wrong things. But in his private quarters, Admiral Torvik began to pray. He prayed to old gods that his people had nearly forgotten. He prayed for wisdom. He prayed for mercy. Most of all, he prayed that when the humans came back, they would remember that not everyone in the Council had been there. Enemy, he was not optimistic about his chances. Inside the borders of human space, far from the eyes of the Galactic Council, Commander Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the carrier, resolute, and watched the stars. She was a small woman with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had joined the military at 18, fought in 3 border conflicts, and lost her husband to a Korathi raid 10 years ago. She did not smile often anymore. But today, watching the reports come in from across human space, she allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. "Status report," she said. Lieutenant Kevin Park looked up from his console. He was young, barely 30, but he was one of the best tactical officers in the fleet. "All quiet on the borders, Commander. The automated defense network is operating at full capacity. We have had 23 incursion attempts in the past month, all neutralized casualties. None on our side. The intruders, ... Kevin paused, checking his data. Approximately 4,000 enemy combatants killed or captured. 200 ships destroyed. 1 ship returned as a warning." Lisa nodded. "And the deep space projects?" "Ahead of schedule. Station Phoenix reports that the Gateway framework is 70% complete. Dr. Alina, Cruz says the new drive systems will be ready for testing within 2 weeks. The colony ships are being loaded as we speak." Lisa turned back to the viewport. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright against the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was panicking. Somewhere out there, the species that had mocked and exploited and murdered humanity for 3 centuries were finally starting to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. "Good, Commander," Kevin said. "We have a situation developing at the border. Show me." The main display shifted to show a section of space near the edge of human territory. A cluster of small ships was approaching, moving slowly, broadcasting distress signals on all frequencies. Analysis. They appear to be civilian vessels. Registry shows they are from multiple Council species. Marathi, Velkan, some minor races, Evan frowned at his screen. Their communications indicate they are refugees. They are requesting asylum in human space. Lisa studied the image carefully. The ships were old and poorly maintained. They were overcrowded, with life support systems straining to keep everyone alive. These were not spies or scouts. These were desperate people fleeing something terrible. What are they running from? Reports indicate that the Council is experiencing internal problems. The economic disruption caused by our withdrawal has led to shortages in rationing. Some species are blaming others. There have been riots on several worlds. Kevin looked up. And apparently, there are purges happening. species that spoke in favor of humanity, individuals who criticized the Council's treatment of us. They are being arrested, imprisoned. Some have disappeared. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her husband, taken by Korathi raiders while the Council did nothing. She thought about the 40,000 humans sold into slavery while the Council called it an internal matter. She thought about 300 years of insults and injuries and broken promises. Part of her wanted to turn these refugees away. Part of her wanted to say that the Council's problems were not humanity's concern. Part of her wanted revenge, but that part was small, and it grew smaller every day. "Open a channel to the lead ship," she ordered. The view screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was a Marathi female, her gills fluttering with fear and exhaustion. Behind her, Lisa could see dozens of others packed into a space designed for a fraction of their number. Children clung to their parents. The elderly huddled in corners. Everyone looked hungry and scared. "Human vessel," the Marathi said, her voice trembling. "Please, we have nowhere else to go. The Council has turned against those who spoke for you. My family, we always believed that humanity deserved better. Now we are paying for that belief. Our homes have been taken. Our property has been seized. We were told to leave or face imprisonment." Lisa felt something shift inside her chest. "What is your name?" she asked. The Marathi blinked in surprise. "I am Sela of the Third Current. I was a teacher. I taught young ones about the stars. I told them about all the species in the galaxy, including humanity." Her voice broke. "I told them that humans were good people, kind people, that the way the Council treated you was wrong. And now, ... She could not finish. Lisa made her decision. "Sela of the Third Current," she said formally, "you and your companions are hereby granted entry to human space. Proceed to the coordinates being transmitted to your navigation system. You will be met by escort ships who will guide you to a processing station. Food, water, medical care, and shelter will be provided." Sela stared at her in disbelief. "You will take us? After everything the Council has done to you?" "The Council did those things," Lisa replied. "Not you, not these families, not these children. Humanity does not blame the innocent for the crimes of the guilty." Tears began to flow from Sela's eyes, mixing with the moisture on her gills. "I do not know how to thank you. I do not know if thank you is even enough." "It is enough," Lisa said gently. "Now get your people to safety. The coordinates are in your system." The communication ended. Lisa watched as the refugee ships began to move toward the designated coordinates, where human vessels were already waiting to guide them to their new homes. Kevin was watching her with an expression she could not read. "Something on your mind, Lieutenant?" "Permission to speak freely, Commander?" "Always." Kevin hesitated, then spoke. "Some people on Earth will not be happy about this. There are those who believe we should focus on ourselves, that we should not waste resources on aliens who stood by while we suffered." Lisa nodded slowly. "And what do you think, Lieutenant?" "I think," Kevin paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think that if we become like the Council, then they have one. Even if we defeat them, even if we surpass them, if we lose what makes us human in the process, then we have lost everything." Lisa smiled. It was a rare expression on her face, and it transformed her entirely. "Exactly right, Lieutenant. For 300 years, the Council treated us as less than people. They ignored our pain. They dismissed our worth. They taught us every single day what cruelty looks like." She turned back to the viewport. "Now we have a choice. We can become what they made us, or we can become what we were meant to be. And what is that, Commander?" "Better," Lisa said simply. "We can be better." Outside, the refugee ships passed into human space, guided by lights that had been prepared for them. Inside those ships, beings who had expected death found life instead. They found food and water and warmth and safety. They found humanity. And in that moment, something important changed. The story of humanity's withdrawal from the Council had been a story of anger and isolation. Now it was becoming something else. A story of refuge. A story of hope. The Council had tried to break humanity by treating them as worthless instead. Humanity had decided to show the galaxy what worth really meant. The work continued. The gateway grew closer to completion. The ships were loaded. The future was being built, one day at a time, and every day. More refugees arrived at the borders, seeking sanctuary from a council that was tearing itself apart. Humanity welcomed them all. 6 months after humanity closed its borders, the Galactic Council was falling apart. It had started with small things. A shortage here, a delay there, prices rising, tempers flaring. Nothing that could not be managed. Nothing that the great and ancient council could not handle. But the small things kept growing. The Vulcan power systems began failing across 3 of their core worlds. The replacement parts they needed did not exist anywhere in council space. Their engineers worked day and night trying to find alternatives, but nothing they built worked as well as the human components. Blackouts became common. Industries shut down. Millions were affected. The Marathi medical crisis grew worse. The disease that their human-made medicine had controlled began spreading again. Children were dying. Parents were desperate. The Marathi government demanded that the council do something, anything, but there was nothing to be done. The medicine came from human space, and human space was closed. Other species discovered their own dependencies. Communication networks that relied on human-designed software. Transportation systems that used human-manufactured engines. Food supplies that included human agricultural products. Everywhere the council looked, they found threads connecting them to the species they had dismissed as unimportant, and now those threads were gone. This is unacceptable. High Counselor Vextheri shouted during an emergency session. The Great Hall was only half full. Many representatives had stopped coming to meetings, choosing instead to deal with crises on their home worlds. The humans are deliberately strangling our economy. They are waging war without firing a shot. We must respond with force. Force. Admiral Torvik rose from his seat. The old Karathi warrior looked tired. He had not slept well in months. What force would you use, High Counselor? We have sent ships into human space. They do not come back. We have sent fleets. They are destroyed. We do not even know what weapons the humans are using against us. Then we will send more ships. We will send every ship we have. We outnumber them 1,000 to 1. Numbers mean nothing if we cannot reach them. Torvik shook his massive head. The humans have sealed their borders completely. No species in galactic history has ever achieved this. Not even the precursors at the height of their power. Whatever the humans have built in that silent space, it is beyond anything we understand. You are afraid, Vextheri accused? You, the great Karathi admiral, are afraid of a species that was crawling in mud while we were building empires. Yes, Torvik said quietly. I am afraid. And you should be too. The chamber fell silent. I have studied humanity since first contact, Torvik continued. I have read their history. I have watched them fight. And I have made a terrible mistake. We all have. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative who remained. We saw what the humans showed us. Friendly traitors. Eager diplomats. Patient victims. We thought that was all they were. He paused, gathering his thoughts. But humans have another side. A side they do not show unless they are pushed too far. They call it many things. Resolve, determination, stubbornness. But what it means is this. When humans decide something matters, they do not stop. Ever. They will sacrifice everything. They will endure anything. They will fight until they win or die, and sometimes they find ways to do both. Pretty words, Vextheri sneered. But words do not win wars. No, Torvik agreed. Actions win wars. And what actions have we seen from humanity? They have sealed their borders with technology we cannot penetrate or understand. They have destroyed 200 of our best warships without losing a single vessel of their own. They have broken the mind of one of our fiercest warriors so completely that he will never recover. The admiral's voice dropped. And they have done all of this in 6 months. 6 months of preparation. After 300 years of being treated as nothing, he let that sink in. What do you think they were doing for those 300 years, High Counselor? Do you think they were just waiting? Do you think they were just hoping things would get better? Or do you think they were planning? Preparing? Building? Vexari's mandibles clicked uncertainly. You cannot know that, but I can guess. And my guess is that everything we have seen so far is just the beginning. The humans showed us their weakness because it suited them. Now they are showing us their strength, and we have no idea how deep it goes. Before Vex 3 could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed. Representatives looked around in confusion and fear. Report, Vexari demanded. What is happening? A technician's voice came through the communication system, trembling with barely controlled panic. High Counselor, we are receiving transmissions from the border worlds. Multiple species are reporting mass departures. Civilian ships by the thousands are heading toward human space. Word. Why? They are seeking asylum, High Counselor. Word has spread that humanity is accepting refugees. The beings fleeing are those who supported humanity, those who spoke against the Council's treatment of them. They are leaving before they can be arrested. Vexari's compound eyes widened. Stop them. Close the borders. No one leaves without Council permission. We cannot, High Counselor. There are too many. Our patrol ships are overwhelmed, and some of our own crews are refusing orders. They say they will not fire on civilians. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded action. Others demanded calm. A few quietly slipped out the back, heading to their own ships, their own escapes. Admiral Torvik watched the chaos without expression. This was what he had feared. This was what he had known was coming. The Council had built its power on the assumption that no one would ever leave, that the benefits of membership would always outweigh the costs, that the smaller species would always need the larger ones. But humanity had proven that assumption wrong. Humanity had shown that it was possible to walk away. And now, others were following. The Council was not falling to invasion or war. It was falling to something far more dangerous choice. Beings across the galaxy were choosing to leave. They were choosing humanity over the Council. They were choosing hope over fear, kindness over cruelty, the unknown over the familiar. And there was nothing the Council could do to stop them. Torvik thought about the message that had been burned into the minds of the diplomatic crew. Do not return. He had assumed it was a warning, a threat. Now he understood it differently. It was not a threat. It was permission. Permission to stay away. Permission to be free of the Council and all its demands. The humans were not just rejecting the Council. They were offering an alternative, and that alternative was spreading. Torvik made a decision. He stood, ignoring the chaos around him, and walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop him. No one even noticed. In his quarters, he began recording a message to his family, a message to his people, a message explaining why he was about to do something that would either save them or destroy them. Then he boarded his personal shuttle and set a course for the human border. If humanity would accept a Korathi admiral who had spent his life fighting against everything they stood for, then perhaps there was hope for the galaxy after all. If they would not, then at least he would die with his eyes open, facing the truth instead of hiding from it. Either way, he was done with the Council. It was time to choose. 1 year after humanity severed all ties with the Galactic Council, a message appeared on every communication device in Council space. It came without warning, without explanation, without any way to trace its origin. The message was simple. United Earth Government invites representatives of the Galactic Council to a meeting. Coordinates follow. Send one ship only. No weapons. The future of 2 galaxies will be discussed. 2 galaxies. The words echoed through Council space like a THUNDERCLAP. For 3 days, the remaining Council members argued about what to do. Some wanted to ignore the message. Some wanted to send a war fleet. Some wanted to surrender unconditionally. In the end, they sent a single diplomatic vessel carrying representatives from each major species that still participated in council affairs. The journey took 2 weeks. The coordinates led to empty space, far from any star system, far from any known trade route. There was nothing there, and then there was everything. The station appeared on their sensors without warning, as if it had simply decided to exist. It was enormous, larger than any structure the council had ever built. It dwarfed their greatest shipyards. It made their proudest monuments look like children's toys. And behind it, dominating the view, was something that made every being on the diplomatic vessel gasp in disbelief. A gateway. It was a ring of metal and light, spinning slowly in the void. Through its center, stars were visible. But they were wrong stars. Different stars. The patterns did not match any known region of the galaxy. These were stars from somewhere else. Somewhere impossibly far away. The diplomatic vessel docked with the station in silence. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. Ambassador Daniel Harper was waiting for them in a large hall near the docking bay. He looked older than he had a year ago. His hair was completely gray now, and there were new lines on his face. But his eyes were clear and steady. "Welcome," he said. "Thank you for coming." High Counselor Vexeri led the delegation. His mandibles clicked nervously as he looked around the hall. Human technology was everywhere, but it was technology he did not recognize. Machines that served no obvious purpose. Displays showing data in formats he could not read. The air itself felt different, charged with energy that made his antenna twitch. "What is this place?" Vexeri demanded. "What is that structure outside?" Daniel smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not friendly either. It was the smile of someone who had finally reached the end of a very long journey. That structure is humanity's answer to 300 years of asking nicely and being ignored. It is a gateway to another galaxy. A fresh start. A new home. The delegation stared at him in stunned silence. "You built a gateway to another galaxy, prelate," Uzara of the Velkin said slowly, her crystalline form flickering with colors that had no translation. "In 1 year, that is impossible." "No," Daniel corrected gently. "It is merely very difficult. Humanity has been working on this technology for almost 2 centuries. We simply never told anyone." He gestured toward the viewport, where the gateway continued its slow rotation. "The first colony ships passed through 3 months ago. We have already established settlements on 12 worlds in a new galaxy. Worlds with no council. No ancient rivalries. No species that see us as inferior." "You are leaving," Vexeri said. It was not a question. "Most of us, yes. Along with the refugees who have joined us over the past year. Nearly 500 million beings from dozens of species, all seeking a new beginning." Daniel paused. "But that is not why we invited you here. Then why?" Daniel walked to the viewport and stood looking at the gateway. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "We could have used this technology differently. We could have opened gateways into council space. We could have sent our fleets through, attacked from angles you could not defend, conquered your worlds one by one. With what we have built, we could have destroyed the council within a year." He turned to face them. "We chose not to. Why?" The question came from Admiral Torvik. The old Karathi had been accepted into human space 2 months earlier. He stood now among the human delegation wearing a simple civilian uniform instead of his military decorations. "After everything we did to your people, why show mercy?" Daniel considered the question carefully. "Because mercy is not about what others deserve. It is about what we want to be. We spent 300 years being angry, being hurt, being small. When we finally had the power to strike back, we realized something important." He looked at each member of the council delegation in turn. "Revenge would not give us back our dead. It would not heal our wounds. It would only create new wounds, new dead, new reasons for hatred. The cycle would continue forever." He walked back to the center of the hall, so we made a different choice. We chose to leave. We chose to build something new instead of destroying something old. We chose to take our anger and our pain and transform them into something better. Vexeri's mandibles clicked rapidly. "And what do you expect from us? Apologies? Gratitude?" "No," Daniel said. "We expect nothing. We ask nothing. We are not here to negotiate or demand or threaten. We are here to say goodbye." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. With a gesture, holographic images filled the hall. Images of human colonies, human cities, human families, people laughing, children playing, couples walking together under alien stars, life in all its beautiful complexity, flourishing in a new galaxy. This is what we are building. This is what we are becoming. And when the last ship passes through the gateway, we will shut it down forever. We will not return. We will not interfere. This galaxy will be yours, to do with as you please. The images faded. But before we go, we want to leave you with one thing. Not a weapon. Not a threat. Just a thought. Daniel's voice softened. The Council can survive without humanity. You proved that when you ignored us for 3 centuries. But the Council cannot survive without changing. The cracks are already showing. The refugees who fled to us were just the beginning. If you continue as you have always done, treating the small as worthless and the different as dangerous, you will tear yourselves apart. He stepped back. Or you can learn from what happened here. You can remember that the species you dismissed as primitive built wonders you cannot understand. You can remember that the people you called weak showed strength you cannot match. You can look at the empty space where humanity used to be and ask yourselves, what did we miss? What did we not see? What could we have done better? Daniel turned and began walking toward the exit. Then he stopped and looked back one last time. 300 years ago, all we wanted was to be treated as equals, to be respected, to be heard. It was not much to ask, but you could not give it. Now we are leaving, and we are taking nothing with us except our people and our hope. He smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. Goodbye, counselors. We will not meet again. But perhaps, someday, your descendants will meet ours. Perhaps they will do better than we did. Perhaps they will find a way to be friends. He left. The council delegation stood in silence for a long time, watching through the viewport as the gateway continued to spin. One by one, human ships passed through it, disappearing into light, heading toward stars that no council species would ever see. When the last ship was gone, the gateway powered down. Its light faded. Its rotation stopped, and then it simply vanished, folding in on itself until nothing remained but empty space. Humanity was gone. In the years that followed, the council did change. Slowly, painfully, but genuinely. The empty space where humanity had been served as a constant reminder of what arrogance could cost. New laws were passed. Old wrongs were addressed. Species that had once been ignored found their voices heard. And sometimes on quiet nights, beings across the galaxy would look up at the stars and wonder, were the humans still out there, somewhere beyond the darkness? Had they found what they were searching for? Perhaps someday there would be an answer. Until then, the galaxy would have to become worthy of finding out.